last week we talked about gratitude and with Reiki, how Reiki just is, Reiki just gives it to us. And I think for me, that was a hard concept to understand and believe, actually, and trust. And then understanding more about gratitude as a life force energy. It's a frequency. And that same frequency is part of our physical makeup, our life force. It's the same frequency that is in, the earth and all the things on the earth. And of course, we also know that there can be an absence of it. One of the things that came through this morning to really talk about is the understanding that you can have gratitude within, know it, have a deep understanding of it for yourself, for your life, and you can feel differently than that. You can feel the absence of gratitude, or you can feel other emotions that may, overtake the feeling of gratitude, and yet inside still know that it's completely there, a part of who you are, and what you know about yourself. And Reiki can help you with that. It can help you receive the energy that empowers it within you, because it is part of your life force. It's part of, I guess, our biofield, for instance. It's part of our spirit and what we actually have within us. It can get hidden from our own view because of life circumstances. It can be hidden from us for a lot of different reasons. If any of you listened to our podcast with Andrea Kennedy a couple weeks ago, she talked about how she sees that as quilts. Like you have a life experience that is a hard one and that starts to hide you from you, and it is like a quilt covering you. And then another quilt can cover you, and another one, and pretty soon they pile up, and it makes it hard to see who you really are inside. As those quilts remove, you become more clear to yourself. And also, as you become more clear to yourself, that is what illuminates the quilts. And they dissolve in the light. The energy of it, the brightness is brighter than the shadow. And the eclipse today is such a perfect example of that. The parts of you where things may be eclipsed. Maybe gratitude isn't eclipsed. Maybe it's something else. And maybe you feel in your full brightness. When you observe an eclipse, in my observation, when I've observed an eclipse, and I saw the solar eclipse here in Oregon a couple of years ago, that was just like, I will always make the attempt to be in the totality of a solar eclipse if I can make that happen. It was so extraordinary and awe-inspiring, and it was probably great that it was, just really only minutes that, you're in that just full blast of the light. And then the lunar eclipses, as you watch the shadow just move away and that illumined light emerging. As a Reiki practitioner, that is an imagery that I am shown that actually is part of how Reiki can heal in many people's Reiki sessions in your life, self-Reiki, all the different ways that you do it. But where Reiki energy, one thing that it does is the energy of Reiki illuminates the shadows. And as you personally receive it, it illuminates you within you. And then that illuminates those shadows, or, if we think of those quilts that can cover you. And so you imagine in this moment thinking about, if you go into a room and it's dark and you turn on the light illuminates the dark. And so this is that same concept. And how Reiki actually works is it illuminates those shadows. And that's really your authentic self, those frequencies within you that are your real truth. And as it illuminates you, first of all, to yourself, I think that was another part that I struggled with as I was allowing myself to emerge, in my own view, so I could see myself and recognize my own light. That part of it was I was afraid that if I, got really shiny, where the light was really, my light was really illuminated, that would mean I would have to be public with that, and that it could affect my privacy. Because I'm like everybody. I have my need for privacy, and I have my need for community and sharing and all of those things. So what I learned with the illumination of self from within, and these qualities like gratitude that are part of that illumination, is that ultimately it was for me. It was so I could see me. How I share that with the world is my choice. That's then the next step with it. But the first part of it that Reiki really brings is so that you can see you. That illumined light that you are is revealed within you. And that's what really illuminates those quilts. Some of them, of course, get carried into the light, and put the any cords that attach them or tie them down or connect them to you. Reiki will carry them into the light. And the most important thing to know with that is that Reiki heals them. They're not cast out. They're healed. They're all the way back to their original cause. Oftentimes, if you have something that's hiding you from your own view, like a quilt, oftentimes where that came from had an origination that went even further back than that moment. And so Reiki takes care of that, and it releases that burden from you of having to be the one to solve it all, heal it all, fix it all. Because the energy is conscious. It's, a very high frequency, lots of descriptions of what that means. Consciousness. The distance symbol means the origin of all is pure consciousness. And that means you. So Reiki helps you get there, and it helps you get to those higher frequencies that you naturally are. And sometimes having the ability to really discern that even if you have a different feeling, so let's say, because we're talking about gratitude, even if you have a different feeling about gratitude, you can know that your internal self, your inner knowing, has that gratitude. It's a state of being. It's more than a feeling. It's also a frequency. So we talked last week about appreciation being one of the avenues towards gratitude. And for me, to a certain extent, I've had all different gratitude practices that I've done. And so what I do with that is allow myself to do whatever one I want to. Another thing that Reiki has really helped me understand is that it just doesn't have requirements that we deserve it to respond to us. And since an energy like gratitude is part of Reiki energy, the frequency itself and the higher frequencies of it is a part of the Reiki energy, I can just invite myself to receive it. Just allow it and say yes. Sometimes I just say yes to the higher frequencies, and I don't even know that I don't feel super authentic with it. I just know I'm saying yes. And also I'll sometimes say, even when I forget to ask, I'm saying yes. I would like those frequencies of gratitude to show up and, fill my breath and be part of my day so I can experience myself that way and feel that way. Because it's also possible to feel gratitude, say, and grief at the same time. Have the inner knowing of gratitude, the inner knowing of joy, have a feeling of gratitude and a feeling of grief at the same time. There can be all kinds of mixes with it. So the same thing with the Reiki energy, I feel that it actually helps us just sort through that. Sometimes it's overwhelming to think about, what do I need to let go of to have the fullness of this experience of feeling and being grateful. And sometimes you know what that is, and sometimes you don't. And so it's nice that Reiki energy can, surround those areas where those quilts are, the shadows are, and illuminates it, releases it, dissolves it in the light. And so I think another thing is that it is, again, relating to the eclipse and imagining the eclipse, just that covering. And sometimes that covering is a period of rest. Sometimes we look at those as like that was a negative thing, that we had something covering for a while. And sometimes that's a period of rest or transformation. As those shadows move and as that brightness moves into the light, particularly, with the lunar eclipse, speaking of last night, that's the illumined moon by the light of the sun and the earth. And so just the extraordinary beauty of it is one of the things to experience about it. It also is in Taurus. And this morning when I was doing the work on this also, Taurus is stable earth. And so it also is illuminating for each of you individually stable earth. Sometimes that means persistence to maintain the stability. Sometimes it means devotion. Sometimes it means freedom. All different things for each one of you here. It will have a different meaning. What is stable earth in your life? So it also indicates a level of manifestation and practicality. Taurus is very practical, but also very, very connected with beauty, comfort, safety. Mhm. In addition, this eclipse did what is called conjuncted Uranus, and Uranus is also the planet of freedom. And it's also can be quite, it can also indicate change. So if you are in the process of changes, connect with that stable earth and that reflection of the light with you and for you. And so since our subject today and this month is gratitude, and what we're talking about when we go into our Reiki journey, today we're going to do another journey today. And we are going to work with these frequencies. The journeys are always channeled, so I don't know exactly what that means, but we're going to be working with these energies of how Reiki can help you in managing your daily life today. You know, like how does that actually affect your daily life? By aligning you with these higher frequencies, and as you are open and receiving and receptive and saying yes to it, that gives the energy the ability to highlight it within you. So if you think of it as the same thing of, you know, this energy is walking into the room and turning on the light, and the dimmer switch is going up and you're getting brighter and brighter. And the first place and the first person that you are brighter for is you. So you can hear you and you can know you, and you can go within for your inner truth, your perspectives. And so we're also together here, that I believe from all over the world, with all the different experiences each of us is going through. What we share in common is that we care deeply about contributing to wellness here today, in our world for today, to contribute wellness. Well, I was working with the descendants today, and they actually said we're kind of really the ascendants rather than the descendants, because they said we actually do really evolve into some very, in very good ways. And so they said there is a definite ascendant, but then I said, well, I'm going to still have to call you the descendants because it'd be too much to explain every time. But anyway, in working with them and their higher frequencies, first of all, I love that message. But they were sharing with us how when we gather like this and we elevate and entrain to these higher frequencies, we actually do connect in with their frequencies, because they were saying, well, really, it all exists at the same time. And so that's always a hard concept for me. I can hear it and I know that people get that, but for me, it hasn't really fully connected. So it's, one of those questions that I always ask. And because we still stay individual at the same time that we can say we're all one. But the energy, the way it was showing, actually was something that we have recently been working with a woman named Martha Lacey, and working with the web that surrounds the earth, the connected web. And the web was sharing with her that it's actually a little bit different than our visualization of a web having space in between the strands. It actually showed that there's no space in between the strands, that it's really more like a gelatinous, like Jello, where if you move it from here, that thought goes over here. And so that's what was happening today. I know this is even sounding a little out there maybe to some of you, but I was able to observe in my journey, I was able to observe how that energy, we actually connect into those higher frequencies with Reiki, and it is affecting out into the descendants. And what they have shared is how much that matters. And that this is what we can do. We may have a huge diversity of beliefs here about everything. What we do share in common is that we care deeply about contributing to the wellness here on the earth, for the people, the animals, the earth itself, everything here. So that's what we're going to do in the journey. And also, I would imagine it'll be working with the moon and the planets and the galaxy. So